What is up, everyone? Brandon Ferst, aka First Report. It is time to talk NFL football with the gang, if you will. Off the Bench podcast is the tentative name. I think we're running with it. But it is, of course, myself, Raider Jim, Brandon Lupian, and our newest and our best and greatest edition, Bryanna Winner. She is going to be hosting this NFL extravaganza. Bryanna, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, just ready for week 11 to get started, especially after my horrible fantasy week of week 10.
Yeah, that was a rough one. I think everyone who has Christian McCaffrey is feeling that pain.
It wasn't just McCaffrey though. Everybody performed except one. I was under 60 by the end of the week. Yeah. So like I had no chance.
That's a Dallas Cowboy offensive output. But
I had no Cowboys.
Someone who is riding a bit of a streak in terms of what his team's been doing. It's Raider Jim Martinez, fantastic run for the Raiders lately, and really making themselves the second best team in the AFC West. And hopefully, who knows, maybe this Sunday can make a case to be the best. How are you doing tonight, Raider
I'm doing
Jim?
well. Yes, I'm having a great week. I hope everybody else is. Yeah, the Raiders are looking strong at 6-3. We'll be talking about them. Unfortunately, when you look at those standings, they are not the only 6-3 team out there. So wild cards up in the air. It's anybody's game right now.
Definitely. And last but certainly not least, we have Coach Lupian, who, speaking of, hot teams, you have one of the best teams in football, and of course his New Orleans Saints. Unfortunately, the caveat comes with the prognosis of Drew Brees, 5 broken ribs, a collapsed lung. We will be seeing Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston for the foreseeable future, but the Saints have plenty of weapons outside that. Brandon Lupian, Coach Lupian, how are you doing tonight?
Good evening, y'all. I'm doing great. It's a happy hump day. And just like Miss Winner, I'm looking forward to week 11, not because I had any bad fantasy football results, but you know what? Looking at it like this, we're in week 11 of the NFL season during a pandemic. Honestly, I would have never thought we would be here without the little hitches that have come about. An entire week hasn't been canceled. And I'm like extremely excited about that moving forward. So week 11, we're here. It's a great cast. I enjoyed being here this Wednesday with all of y'all, and we work well, and it's a real fun end of the day. So I look forward to this show.
Amen. And I definitely echo that. A great cast and crew here, and it's always a lot of fun to break down the NFL and everything that we do each and every week. But without further ado, let's pass it over to the host of the show. And as they say in show business, let's get the show on the road.
Well, before we get to the games, Nick Foles also getting injured this week. Who knows what's even happening? Thank God the Bears have a bye week. Like, you have no idea how happy I am for that one. But, I mean, no one knows what's happening. You've got Bray and you've got Trubisky. It's not looking good. And they've 4 straight. It's definitely not looking good.
Yeah, it's tough. The defense, I wonder what's going through Khalil Mack's mind. He wanted to get out of Vegas, Oakland, whatever you want to call it, real quick. And now all of a sudden he's looking at the Raiders being one of the up-and-coming teams, and the Bears not so much.
I think the Bears is also just injuries and miscommunication. And I feel like some of their team is really young. Like Trubisky, just for one, needs to just go away. He needs to get traded. He needs to retire. He needs to do something. I know he's only like in his 4th, 5th year, but he's not good.
No.
He's really not good.
And a lot of that comes down to chemistry. Who do you put these guys with? A lot of people, when they were saying Carr wasn't going to be that great on the Raiders, he had, the one shining season where he looked okay. Gruden came in, and then everybody was on the bandwagon. Not everybody, because I was not, but a lot of people were saying, that's it. Gruden's not going to keep him. He can't play for Gruden. Boy, it takes time. It does take development, and that takes time, and it takes dedication, and as you just said, Bryanna, communication. Communication is the key to it all, and knowing how to talk to these guys. If you think Seattle's not going to come out and play a different game this week, no, they will, because Pete Carroll just has that way. Belichick, all of a sudden, look, all of a sudden, Belichick's won a game that he wasn't supposed to win, but anything can happen.
Weren't they facing the Jets? Like they didn't. Yeah, they were.
Or no, that was
they won Baltimore. They beat
They beat
Baltimore. Yeah, they weren't. Yeah, I don't think anyone expected that. But are you on the Carr bandwagon now?
Oh, I have been.
Yeah,
I have been all along. I've always said he is real close to looking like Rich Gannon did when Gannon came to the Raiders. And that's not a bad thing at all. That's a good comparison. This is his year, 7, something like that, I think it is. So he's probably got a couple more years, and as long as the offensive line keeps him upright, which they have done ever since he had the 50 sack year, good things are going to happen for the Raiders.
Okay, now before we get into everybody's specified division, we're going to start off with Thursday Night Football, which is Arizona at Seattle. And Seattle is currently favored at -3, and the under-over is going to be at 58. So let's start with Coach Lupian.
After last week's game, Buffalo, Arizona, there's not a lot that I think can really be forecasted, I guess you could say, with that Hail Murray, not Hail Mary, but Hail Murray that happened at the end of the game and D-Hop coming down with it. At that point, geez, in seasons past, I've always been about the Bills quarterback, and his name's just not triggering right now.
Josh Allen?
But, yeah, there it is, Josh Allen. And these guys, Raider Jim and Ferst, can attest that I've been on this dude's jock for the past 2 seasons because he's very athletic, 1. He makes plays with his feet, 2, and he continues to keep plays alive. Who does that sound like? It sounds like Kyler Murray, right? So am I necessarily on Kyler Murray's jock right now? Yeah, probably so. Is he my current bromance? Probably so, replacing Josh Allen. But then he's going up against a guy that, hey, similar in stature, similar in arm strength, similar maneuverability outside the pocket in Russell Wilson. And it's going to be an exciting game. So let me touch off on the 58. Number 1, Seattle hasn't been able to stop anybody. Yeah, Coach Carroll has his ways. He figures ways out to scheme for specific teams, specific players, i.e. Kyler Murray. But there's more than just Kyler Murray this year. And let's not forget about Larry Fitzgerald. Let's not forget about, D-Hop, of course. And then let's not forget about the mad scientist in Cliff Kingsbury, their head coach. He figures out how to put points on the board. And I mentioned before, Seattle hasn't stopped anyone all season long. It's not the old Seattle defenses of seasons past. So I'm definitely going with the over 58. I see this as another who's going to have the ball last kind of game. And both quarterbacks have the credentials to have the ball in their hands at the end of the game and win it for their team. Maybe the age different or the veteran versus the second-year guy, they're just guy has a difference. But you know what? Like, when both these teams are putting up points the way both teams are, I don't think Seattle's running game is what it has been in past, where they're a real ball-controlled offense and can dictate that. But that's not what the play calls have been all season long either, because they've been putting up numbers. I actually like it's hard for me to fathom that it's -3.5 just because it's at home. That's probably just a home field spread number, but there is no 12th man this season. And that plays a huge role in Seattle's success in seasons past. So -3, 3.5, whatever it is, I could see the Cardinals covering. So I'm going Cardinals plus 3.5, and I'm taking both to go over 58.
Yeah, I agree, Arizona. That was Kyler Murray. Oh my goodness, the guy's unbelievable. It was a nice little, as somebody who was critical of the Cardinals, pretty much everything the Cardinals did that offseason. I thought Kingsbury was the wrong guy. I thought Kyler Murray was too small. I thought Kyler Murray made the wrong choice in not signing with the A's when they offered him $10 million, which is just a crazy amount of money in baseball. I was wrong about everything. And this past weekend, Kyler Murray paid it in full to me with my money line Buffalo Bills bet, where 35 seconds left in the game, I feel like an absolute genius. And hey, you know what? I got one over on you, Kyler. And, you know, they're at the 50-yard line. There's no way, right? Okay, he throws it up. There's 3 guys there, right? D-Hop comes down with it. I'm just looking for that, waiting for that ball. I'm still waiting for that ball to come down. My hat's off to him. Unbelievable. Kyler Murray and the whole Cardinal team has been incredible this season. This number blows my mind. I echo exactly what Coach Lupian said. Maybe if the 12th man was there getting, you know, liquored up in maybe a colder, you know, not Lambeau style, but it gets cold up in Seattle, maybe get some rain going too, with that noise. But the big thing for me in terms of the over under, I just want to go, I'm going to go with the under because it's a Thursday night game. I think if they had a full week of putting in the game plans of maybe some gadget plays or some extra little things that they could take advantage of, I think it will be a bit of a more vanilla offense. Now their vanilla offense is still pretty razzle dazzle, but I just think it's too high of a number for a Thursday night game. But I know there are plenty of people who will also say, well, I could say the same thing about defenses, and that's perfectly fine. Thursday night games in terms of over under, full disclosure, I don't bet, but I am all over Arizona plus. I would love to get 3.5 without buying a half a point. But 3.5 is perfect. And I will feel, I will go to sleep very happy tonight with that.
Raider Jim, what about you?
Yeah, I would agree. I think we have a consensus here on this one as far as the 2 Brandons and I go. Arizona, they got the 9th best defense, I believe it is. The only thing that I have concern, and that's not concern, but the only thing that's in the back of my head in giving them the nod is first meeting, they did let Russell Wilson throw for 3 touchdowns. So that is key. That's going to be on the game films. I'm sure they've watched it. Can we duplicate that effort on the Seattle side of the ball? And if so, do they have enough defense to try to suppress a little bit of the Arizona offense? And then also, can they keep them off the field, if nothing else? You know, let them score, but don't let them on the field too often. But I do think it's going to be, I like 3.5 myself. That's my magic number right now. And I'm showing are you showing 57 or 57.5? What are we showing?
I had 58 yesterday.
Okay, and right now, I just pulled it up again. I'm seeing 57.5 on Vegas Insider. I like over 57 on this one. Again, just going at those 3 I can see it going into halftime. Both teams, high teens, low 20s, so already well over 40 points going into halftime. And then it's just put on the skates and roll downhill and see who ends up with the ball last. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take the Cardinals plus 3.5 and then over 57 on this one.
Awesome.
So now
if it's 57, I like 57 a whole lot more than 58.
Yeah, I'm adjusting that right now.
Okay, so moving on.
Yeah, absolutely, guys.
You can go on, Coach Lupian.
I was gonna say if Vegas Insider is looking at a 3.5 game, I think they're looking more of a 33, 34, 30 kind of game. Is kind of why I chose the over, but you know, you never know. But go ahead, let's get moving.
And then also one more thing on the Seattle game. It's going to be interesting because Seattle's also undefeated at home this year. 12th man or not. They don't lose in the dome. They like it up there. So one thing to consider, and Arizona, to their credit, 3-1 on the road. So it is going to be one good game tomorrow night.
I mean, it is one of the toughest divisions out in the NFL right now too.
Yes.
So everybody's like neck and neck. So at this point, it's a playoff race for every single team in that division. But going into the AFC West, we're going to start off with Miami at Denver. So Raider Jim, what do you think about it? Right now, Miami is -3.5.
Yeah, my favorite mammal right now, the Dolphins. They have been making me money last year and this year. They didn't disappoint me last week against the Chargers. They played a great game. I understand there were some special teams issues that really jump-started them out of the blocks, but they held true, and I think they played a great game. They're going in against Denver, who is just flat out beat up. There's no other way to put it. Denver's a beat-up team right now. They weren't any better at the end of the game against the Raiders. They played an okay first half, and they were actually hanging in there. But then the Raider defense came through and kept these guys off the field. I think at one point going into the fourth quarter, or part way through the fourth quarter, I heard the stat that Denver had only run 9 plays or something to that effect. So they did the job keeping them off the field. I think Miami's just rolling right now on the momentum side of the ball. They are the 3.5-point favorites is the last thing I saw, with an over-under of 45. They're in Denver. I haven't checked the weather. I don't know if they're going to have a cold front, if they're going to have snow. I still like Miami to cover. I think they'll probably end up winning by 5 or 6 easily. And I would still, and they're putting up points too. So if it's 45, but Denver cannot score, so I would take the under on this one as well. I'm going to go Miami covering the points and under 45.
Yeah, I'll echo that one as well. Miami, I was wrong about Miami last week. I thought Chargers were going to take them down, just because Chargers seem to win those games they're not supposed to. But the
Chargers have been choking.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, we do go back, even, they play Kansas City tough. They played, the Saints were obviously exhibit A in the choking department. But they're playing these teams really tough. One of those times, eventually Anthony Lynn has to, eventually blindfolded pin the tail on the donkey at some point.
I agree 100% with Raider Jim. My pick is Miami, and I'm going with the under, more so because of what Brian Flores has been doing with pretty much a bunch of no-name defenders, and I think the Patriots and Belichick are feeling the hurt of losing him on their staff. But, back to last week's pick, Chargers, Miami, I went with Miami. One, the Chargers just don't play the AFC East very well. And having to go out to Miami, it showed. So this week, Miami's in Denver. Denver's beat up. Denver can't score regardless. Stick with the under. Pick Miami to take it. And they're riding that Tua wave regardless of the weather.
I did think the Chargers were going to get lucky because last week it was the first time ever that CBS pretty much had to forfeit their morning games because it was final round of the Masters. The Masters is in April usually, so it's never been a conflict. So they're actually more afternoon games. And the fact that the Chargers and Dolphins, I think it was a 105 start, but it was definitely an afternoon start. I thought that might have helped them in terms of against the AFC East. But yeah, you're right. They just choke, and that's what you get when you bet on teams that choke.
But will elevation be a factor?
Always. I feel like that's the ultimate home field advantage. You see it obviously more so in baseball, but just not being able to, we all know how, well, most of us, I know me and Bryanna do, being in altitude, it takes you a while, and let alone playing an NFL game. But these guys, they know how to do it. I think teams have now perfected getting there, 2 or 3 days earlier than normal, practicing, acclimating. Obviously you see most people with oxygen masks on the sideline during the game, But yeah, I think elevation, that's the ultimate kick in the butt, but it's too much here. Miami's too good.
I mean, it was a kick in the butt for me. I'm looking at the weather as of right now. It's supposed to be 50 and sunny.
Oh, that's a beautiful, beautiful Denver November day.
There you go.
Yeah, I've
Miami all the way.
30. I've been in November's 30s over there, so I know the feeling. Okay, moving on, we're going to go to the Jets at the Chargers. And right now,
the hapless Jets, another hapless team, the hapless New York Jets, still trying to get themselves together and get on track. And I always find the one or two games that I just have to go against everybody and say, no, trust me on this one. Will they win the game? I don't think so. Do I think the Jets could cover? I really do, because I'm looking at 10.5. Chargers are 10.5 right now.
Wow.
And even the over-under surprises me, because Chargers can put up points. They've proved that. And the over-under right now is 47. But I would like to see the Jets cover the 11 or the 10.5. I might go the extra half point. Jets plus 11 and go the over on that, because quite honestly, I think the Chargers psyche is really messed up right now. And I don't know that, going back to talking of the Pete Carrolls and the Belichicks, and they know how to get their guys together. They know the right things to say. I don't know that Anthony Lynn is knowing the right things to say right now. His remark after the game to the press against the Dolphins was, well, there were guys out there on the field today that you're not going to see next week. Well, doesn't that instill confidence amongst your team that's trying to just put together a win? To their credit, they didn't lose in the last minute. They lost in the first 3 minutes. So there's the difference for that game. So I think the Jets have had a week off, time to reorganize. And forgive me, Brandon, first for this one, but it's just like last week when I said, no, I think the Giants are going to cover and have a good game against the Eagles. And sure enough, they covered and had a good game against the Eagles. I think that's what you're going to see this week. They're playing up in LA. So the weather's definitely not going to be a factor. And like I say, I just don't think the Chargers have the confidence right now. As I used the analogy for myself, when I'm making good picks or doing okay at the horses or whatever, hey, I can run downhill with the best of them as long as I don't look at my feet. But the minute I do that and I start tripping and falling, no good. And I think what's happening is the Chargers were running downhill with Herbert in the game, to start off unexpectedly. And now all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. And maybe his teammates are saying, see, this isn't the guy that's supposed to be here. Because his numbers were not good last week at all.
Yeah, I go back to, pre-Baker Mayfield. I don't know, I think it was 2015, 2014, 2015. The Cleveland Browns had a 2-year stretch where they went 1-31. The one win was the Los Angeles Chargers. This Jets team is on that level. This is a bad football team, but the Chargers, I think most times when the Jets go up against another team, immediately there is just a massive coaching mismatch. No matter who is on the field, there is a massive coaching mismatch, because Adam Gase is probably not really an NFL head coach. I know he is in title, but he's kind of the AFC's version of Matt Patricia. And this situation with Anthony Lynn coming in, it's almost like Gase is looking around going, whoa, not so much in New York because it is the New York media, but nationally, I would say Anthony Lynn is more of the, why does this guy have a job? I think, Adam Gase, it's just whatever. He'll be fired at the end of the year, and I fully expect Lynn to be fired at the end of the year because Spanos can't do anything mid-season. It just takes too long. He's like the government of owners. Everything takes about 4 months to get anything done. And the Chargers, if you see plus 250, put a couple dollars on this. This is a situation where I could see the Jets going in the next 2 or 3 years, winning only 2 or 3 games, and 1 or 2 of them being against the Charger team, because this coaching staff doesn't get these guys ready to play. So what makes you think that they're going to get them ready to the point where now these players are overlooking these guys? There's probably only one or two teams on the Chargers lineup schedule they can overlook. This is one of them. I am all about. I loved them at 8.5. If you can get them at 10.5, I am all about that. And I like the over as well, though. Exactly what you said. Oddly enough, the Charger defense, and it's other things. I mean, obviously mistakes, fumbles. My goodness, you got a bunch of Marlon McCrees out there, and it's a situation where Herbert is learning, but he's the best player on the field most times, which is great. But that's not a great way for a quarterback or a rookie quarterback to really progress. So give me the Jets with a big smile on my face, and I'll take the over as well. I think the number's way too low.
So what's the number now? The number earlier was 9. It's 10.5. I actually picked LAC at 9. It's a 3 field goal game, pretty much, you know?
Yeah.
I like the under. I'm sorry, I like the over. I think the total number is really low, given what the Chargers have put up in games past. But I'm not feeling as harsh as my compatriots are right now, based on what Kansas City did to the Jets at minus 20 a couple of weeks ago. It's just a bad team. Minus 10.5. That's generous, but someone's thinking the Chargers could put up points as well, and they've proven it. I don't know what the Jets have going for them. So if I'm that lone guy, I'm going LAC minus 10.5, and I'm definitely going the over.
I think maybe it could just be the Jets having a bye week last week. I've just forgotten exactly how bad they are. And I'll be the first one to admit there are very few teams I'm more biased against than the Chargers. So I will be right there with, what is it, Fireman Ed, who leads the JETS Jets chant this weekend. So that's 100%. That comes with the disclaimer, of course. Me over here saying, hey, this is 100% biased pick. But like I said, I just think those are too many. I don't know if the Chargers are 10 points better than anybody in the NFL.
Hey, you almost had me, though.
Yeah.
Because, I remember that Cleveland game against the Chargers. You almost had me, but I'm going to stick with my gut here.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the final game in the AFC West, there has been some news circulating about the Raiders right now, but this is our Sunday night game, which is going to be Kansas City versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Right now, the Chiefs are favored at 6.5.
And I think that moved. I actually see now, again, referencing the Vegas Insider site, they've got current 7.5. So it's bumped another point.
Is this because of the COVID list?
They've got, and they've got the over under at 56.5. So right now, what we have on the Raiders side of the ball. Well, let me start with record 6-3, and what I said earlier, one of the best starts for the Raiders in a few years. And the Super Bowl champions are playing like Super Bowl champions. What they look at, though, because they are champions, isn't, hey, look, we've won 8 games. What they look at when they go into the locker room is, who did we lose to? We've got 1 loss. Who beat us? And then they're going to look and they're going to say, well, the Raiders beat you, and the Raiders beat you in your house. So this is a little bit of payback time. And also, they don't want to creep down to where it's, they now have 2 losses and the Raiders have 3 losses, especially if the Raiders continue to roll and put together good games, even if they win them in the last minute. So they're going to come out firing like, all guns blazing. The other thing is, and here it is, the Raider conspiracy theories abound. It's really interesting how, once again, the Chiefs get the bye week before they play the Raiders, but that is the case. And it seems to be that there's a little bit of a pattern there. So they are going to come in well rested. They're also coming in very healthy, which can't be said for the Raiders, as Bryanna alluded to. We have got, let's see, let me look.
I think last I saw was 7.
Seven, yeah. And we have, on the Raiders side of the ball, you've got Jonathan Abrams, Maliot Collins, Jonathan Hankins, Isaiah Johnson, Arden Key, Kendall Vickers. Those are all guys that are on the COVID list today on the defensive side of the ball. Plus you have LaMarcus Joyner. The name that I didn't read off, but he's also out there, is probably not going to play, is Cleveland Farrell, who he hasn't been racking up sacks like he is supposed to, but he is definitely putting pressure on people and moving people out of pockets, things like that, and stopping some runs. Wrong team to have defensive issues with on the health side of the ball. You can't just pull a bunch of guys out. This isn't hockey. Let's send 5 guys into the box and send 5 guys over the boards and we're fresh, let's go. Doesn't work that way in the NFL. So at 7.5, originally going into the game, I was thinking the Raiders could cover, and letting my heart get the best of me, I'm going to say that I would take an extra half point. I would take the Raiders to cover at 8. Definitely. The over-under at 56.5, I think that's a slam dunk. I think they're going to go over the 56.5, no problems. On the offensive side of the ball, the Raiders are doing okay. What they need to duplicate, as they did against Denver, and it's a much bigger task this year, and that is keep Mahomes off the field. But that's been, I pick up my hymnal every Sunday and I'm singing the same song when the Raiders are playing the Chiefs. You must keep Mahomes off the field. They did very well in that first game. They did keep him off the field and they made smart defensive plays. So it's error-free football, keep Mahomes off the field, execute and eat the clock on the offensive side of the ball. But now, with that COVID list, there is a good chance that the majority of those guys will be back. The one's definitely out, like I say, Cleveland Farrell, he's the big name that's going to be out. If Abrams is back, then we're looking good because he is just picking up momentum with each and every game. He knows he belongs in the NFL. He hits like he belongs in the NFL. So let's see what happens. Again, I'm going to go with take an extra half point, have the Raiders to cover at 8. At home, and then over on 56.5.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of jump on the COVID bandwagon, I guess, if you will. That sounds terrible, but I think it's gonna be a bit too much. If this was the first matchup, and obviously, hindsight 2020, I think the first matchup, the Chiefs were caught unaware. They were in a situation, I believe they were undefeated. They might have obviously only one loss at the time, but I think they were undefeated, but they got caught out by the Raiders. Andy Reid is the poster boy for what coaches can do coming out of buys. I mean, if you want to, the basis of what you want to do is prepare coming out of bye weeks or long weeks, Andy Reid is your guy. I think Raider Jim alluded to it last year. This was the same situation, different Raider team, but the Chiefs won 40-9. That was once again, different situation. But it's Andy Reid out of a bye. The line that I had it as yesterday at 6.5. 8, if it gets up to 8, I know Raider Jim had to buy a half point. 7.5 will scare me away from actually playing this game. Anything less than 7, I think the Chiefs cover. The Raiders are having a great season, but I don't think in my heart of hearts they can beat the Chiefs twice. And secondly, I don't think the Chiefs want to mess around. The Chiefs have had some games against the Panthers. They've had some games that have been the Chargers that have been way too close that maybe they kind of let the other team stick around. This is not going to be the case. I think they come out quick. I wouldn't be surprised. I hate to say it. I hope I'm wrong for Raider Jim's sake, but this could be a situation where the Chiefs kind of come out and reassert themselves that, hey, this team beat us earlier in the year in Arrowhead, but we are still the top of this food chain. And I think they cover at least a touchdown. Or I'm sorry, at most a touchdown is what I'll bet, but yeah.
A lot happened, and a lot happened last bye week for the Chiefs. Not only did they have a chance to get healthy and game plan, but Baltimore lost. So there's a race for that 1 seed in the AFC. And this is a time where, hey, you know what? A perfect opportunity for KC to establish that or even gain ground on that. So, yeah, I totally agree. They're all in on this game. Speed, weather's not going to be a factor. Everyone's going to be at full speed. And I'm looking for an exciting game. I do like the over. And I like that -6.5. But if it's moving game time, you know, I'll be worried about taking it. But I have a feeling that the Chiefs are going to come out and establish themselves. But definitely sticking with the over.
And if people are looking for
just put up numbers.
Yeah, and if people are just really, really convinced that it's the Chiefs, a money line bet on the Chiefs is not going to be a bad thing in this game.
No.
Is there a number at the moment?
I don't have that one in front of me.
Yeah, I don't have it on Vegas.
Okay.
Vegas Insiders a little, they're more spread and over under, but I mean, I wouldn't, I mean, at 6.5, I could see, you know, -200, maybe -180 if you could find somewhere. But yeah, I think it's maybe if you want to find that and the Dolphins and maybe another game as a parlay, that might triple your money if you want to play it that way too.
Right.
Wasn't there some like gloating that happened at Arrowhead the last time these two teams met up though?
It was the bus.
Yes. I'm firmly believing that the bus driver was drunk and just didn't know how to get out of Arrowhead, but we can call it what. No, I'm just kidding. It's great. That's old time, you know, kind of that rivalry. You don't see it too much with, and you know, any team that's played the Raiders as much as these AFC West teams do, you get a bit of a hatred for them. It's not so much as it used to be, but I mean, growing up back in the day, there were, you know, all kinds of situations. I always like to bring up Barrett Robbins in the Super Bowl. That is the most Raider thing that has ever happened. Yeah, Raider Jim doesn't want to hear it, but that is the greatest, most perfect microcosm ever. But yeah, this is going to be a really tough game. I like the over as well. I didn't stick that in, but I like the over. I think these teams are going to score, and when in doubt, take Mahomes in the over.
Chiefs -3.25. Vegas Raiders +265.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And that's as of 2:57. 2:57 this afternoon.
I think after what happened with the whole bus situation, I think Andy Reid and those Chiefs are looking for some revenge.
Oh, they've got good locker room
turf. So I think it's going to be a really interesting game. It wouldn't surprise me if it starts getting a little chippy. Okay, moving on to the NFC South. So we're going to start with Detroit at Carolina. So right now, Carolina favored at 1.5.
You know, I'm not going to ever go against my guy, Mr. Ferst there. And his relationship with Mr. Patricia is well known in this circle. But, you know, I really am impressed with what Carolina has been able to put together without their studs, you know, and that number alone doesn't bode well for anybody but Carolina. Carolina they kind of limped out of that game last week against Tampa Bay, and they're going up against a Detroit Lions team that no one really seems to know what's going on with them for the last couple of years. I like Carolina to cover that 1.5. What's the total points?
40.
I think I chose. Yeah, you know, I'm going to stick with the under on that, just because you just can't trust either team to really separate themselves from each other. But I do like Carolina, and I do like the under 49. Excuse me.
Yeah, I agree. Carolina they're a defense away from being a playoff team. Their defense is they're young and inexperienced. They got some players, but my goodness, in a flip of a switch, that was a 37-10 game. I mean, blink and it's over. And yeah, without McCaffrey, it's an uphill battle. Matt Patricia, My goodness, my hat still goes off to the Ford family for keeping him around for one more year, just to pad a little bit. I call it like it's kind of offsetting the Corona epidemic. You know, you just keep betting Matt Patricia. You got one extra year of him, and who knows, maybe they keep him around again, but I doubt it. Detroit is one of the few teams that players will openly be ecstatic that they're gone.
Right.
They need to get out of there. It's not it might be a toxic culture, or, maybe Matt Patricia is not a great player coach. These are all facts. And that's the biggest thing of all. A different situation with Carolina. Carolina is just dealing with a lack of talent. I'd always rather deal with the lack of talent and hungry dogs rather than some guys that, hey, Matthew Stafford can still probably chuck the ball around, and, Marvin Jones, stuff like that. But do these guys, are they going 100% for their coach? I think Carolina is. I think it was 1.5. I like it right there. If it gets anything higher than 2, I'd probably just money line Carolina, because they're going to win this game. Detroit doesn't travel well either. And the 49, I actually like the over here. I look back to last week. Detroit jumped out on Washington real quick. And then, I was focused on the Eagles game, but it seemed like in a split second, it was tied again. And then obviously a Matt Prater long field goal won it. But Detroit defensively can give up points very quickly. Carolina has found ways without McCaffrey to score points. So I like the over 49, but I'm definitely all in on Carolina at -1.5.
Hey, Raider Jim.
Yeah, I would agree on most of this. Yeah, I think Carolina's definitely going to cover. They'll take care of business. Detroit's that enigma. You never know which Detroit team is going to show up. The games it seems like that they've been favored in, they don't show up, and then all of a sudden they come out of the blue and they beat people. They are 3-2 on the road this year, as opposed to the Panthers, who are 1-4 at home, which is interesting. Now, weather's not going to be a factor. It looks like Carolina's just going to be another fall day in the mid-60s, so we don't have that to worry about. I still think Carolina's going to put together a strong game. I also agree with the over on this. I'm showing 47.5, and I just think that both teams are going to come out and hit 47 by the end of the third quarter. And again, could be another one who's going to have the ball last, but Carolina, I'll take Carolina on both sides of this.
I think it's showing the ineptitude of Matt Patricia and the shine of a Brian Flores. And when you separate the two, I guess you really have wronged Flores and look at him differently as far as him being under Patricia so many years in New England. And you're kind of seeing like, who's really the guy? Who's really the guy? Well, not that Detroit's given Patricia much like Miami's given Flores, but man, like, I take a look at what we're going to come up to this Atlanta game and what Raheem Morris was doing under Dan Quinn as a secondary quality control guy before being promoted to the DC guy last year. Now he's the head guy. Like, guys are really getting undervalued, and some guys are getting overvalued. But it could be that guy that it was a linebacker coach or the secondary coach that was really influential in those defensive meetings. And I stated it earlier with the Saints, just talking under my breath with some buddies, losing a linebacker coach like Mike Nolan. You could see the impact that it took on the Saints defense early on in this season. So, man, my hat's off to Brian Flores. Matt Patricia, if your locker room is what it sounds like, maybe you weren't that guy. Maybe you weren't that defensive genius. So, I'm looking at it like that.
We could possibly be seeing Brian Flores around Matt Patricia, is contemporary, or even Patricia was his superior, whatever you want to call it. And, realizing, hey, I'm realizing how not to be a head coach, or, I'm sure there are whispers about Matt Patricia and the way he treats African-American players. You can go look it up if you would like. I'm not going to substantiate. I don't know, but if you'd like, there could be situations like that where you learn from other people that, okay, that's not how I'm going to do things. Some people that I've worked with, some of the ones that have been very helpful are the ones that have been terrible, because I've realized that's the worst possible way to go about that. Maybe Brian Flores being around Matt Patricia has realized that is the wrong way to do it. But my Matt Patricia, I think we got, by my count, 6 more games. So let's cash those tickets, folks. I don't think he'll come back next year. I would absolutely love for him to return, but I don't think that gift will keep on giving.
Yeah, you're like Raider Jim is with the Dolphins, with the Lions, and against Matt Patricia.
And it's perfect because Raider Jim is the optimist and I am the pessimist. So I'm the hater and he's the cheerleader. And I'm like, yep, we're both making our money, just a little differently.
Okay, so moving on.
Make the money however you got to, right?
Amen.
So moving on to Coach Lupian's team, we've got the Atlanta Falcons at the New Orleans Saints. Obviously, we talked about what happened with the Saints earlier this week with Drew Brees now having a ton of injuries to his ribs, including a collapsed lung. We don't know how long he's going to be out. Right now, the Saints are favored at -5, and the over-under is 50.5.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions going into this game, but I think the facts are, as what Ms. Winner just mentioned, Brees has a rib injury, 5 broken ribs, 1 collapsed lung, and the Saints are scrambling, or not necessarily scrambling, but are up in the air with who they're going to name a starting quarterback. I know everybody in Who Dat Nation is looking for Taysom Hill's name to be under center, but you know what? Like, I think over the seasons, he's proven to be more than just a quarterback and a very valuable asset, whether it's special teams, whether it's under center, whether it's spread out wide, lined up at tight end, or whatnot. So there's a whole lot of versatility in his game. So I'm expecting them to name Jameis Winston the starter. I think we got a good, clear point of view entering that fourth quarter on what they're going to do. And when the game actually got a little tight last week, they started handing that ball off to Taysom. They started going Wildcat Taysom. They started, putting that extra blocker in on the left side, and let's run Taysom behind it, because you know what? At the end of the day, they couldn't stop him, and it just kind of ran the clock out, and it gave Jameis some time to breathe. And then you put Jameis in there, and he's controlling his emotions, and all they need him to do is manage the game. Now, he's not a game manager like last season's Teddy Bridgewater was, when he went 5-0 when Brees was out with that thumb injury. But, we're going into, let's just say, alternate hello?
Yep.
An alternate universe right now for the moment. Sorry. We're just going into an alternate universe right now with Jameis. And honestly, I don't know what to expect. I don't expect the 30 touchdown, 30 interception guy. I don't think Sean Payton will release the reins like that with him. And I mentioned last week, the Falcons are a pretty hot team right now since they've made the head coaching move. There's a whole lot more injuries to the Saints team than Drew Brees is concerned. There's guys that are in concussion protocol. The COVID list isn't out, but there's a couple of secondary guys that limped off the field that are questionable as well. But questionable hardly ever means that they're not going to play. But, I think Sean Payton and the Saints are looking for the return of Brees, hopefully around that KC game. But I also mentioned last week, I thought that they were looking ahead of the 49ers and game planning a little extra for that Falcons game. So that little bit of attention could lead to to what to expect.
I like that.
It's right there. So, okay, minus 5.5. Is that what you said?
5.
-5.
-5. I like 5. I don't like 5.5. Just because of that 30-30 touchdown to interception ratio that we just don't know about, you know? And you know, here's the other thing. Taysom put the ball on the floor last game. And everyone's screaming, he's touching the ball too much. Hey, maybe that fatigue factor really set in after that 4th run in a row. Who knows? But there is the uncertainty that is Taysom, that is Jameis Winston. And Atlanta still could put up numbers, but this defense is shining. They're hot right now. The one thing that I do remember, Teddy B's in and they're in Seattle. That was the mark of their run. And that was the mark of all 11 guys on defense flying around, playing as one unit. All 11 guys on offense doing their jobs, from the offensive line to the running back to the quarterback, doing their job, playing a whole lot more focused and not really reliant on the legend that is Drew Brees. Now, we saw them relying on him a whole lot more when he came back. So I'm looking for them to get a little bit more focused and divulge a little bit deeper into their scheme, into their sets, into not making costly penalties, being more disciplined as a unit than individuals. I do like 5. And I do believe Atlanta doesn't have what it takes to stop an Alvin Kamara. And I do like the over on that. So it's a tough call because you don't know what to expect. But you know what? He's already played 5 seasons. He knows right and wrong. But now he's got a coach that probably is going to scheme very well for him and protect him as much as he would protect Drew Brees, you know, as far as the game calls go, for that matter. So -5, yeah. Over, yeah. They're going to put up points, both teams.
What about you, Raider Jim?
I think it's one of these situations where all the focus, when your star player goes down, that's where all the focus is. The fans, the media, everybody's talking about Drew Brees, and Coach Lupian just kind of alluded to it. My mindset is, this is great. The defensive coordinator can take his team, his unit, pull them off to the side and say, you see all this press? You see what they're saying about us? You realize you guys got to get out there and do the job. They don't give up points. They're not giving up a lot of points. And I think they're going to be able to go out. They're going to corral the Falcons, and they will keep Matt Ryan off the field, and they will make the plays that need to be made. And I also think without Brees, whoever they put in under center now, it just gives them that added dimension with every play. When Brees is in there, you know, there's always that chance. It's a 50-50 or a 65-35. He's going to hit the pocket. He's going to throw somewhere. Now it's like, are these guys really going to throw, or is he going to bring that ball down and it's going to be a bootleg? I mean, anything could happen. And so I think they're really going to have a fine game offensively, and everybody, because of his character and his standing in the NFL, everybody on both sides of the ball wants to see Brees come back, but I don't think it's going to be that big of a hiccup for the Saints at all. So I think definitely they cover by 5. They cover the 5. But I can see the press and the bookmakers even dropping that down a little bit more, depending on who they name as a starter. But over 50 and a half, yeah, no problem. So look for the Saints to just go out there, take care of business. The other thing to remember, they are at the top of the South side, and breathing right down on their necks is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are going to be playing Monday night, I believe. So the records are very, very similar, very, very close. I think the Bucs have played one more game than the Saints at this point. So there's a lot on the table for the Saints. And I think that's just even more incentive. And again, the coach knows how to make these guys play. He knows how to get the most out of them. They're a group of seasoned veterans and professionals. They're going to be just fine.
Yeah. I am all in on the over. I think both of these teams, even at their worst, Atlanta's good for 30 points. I mean, Julio, Calvin Ridley, and Matt Ryan. I mean, not going to be that, MVP caliber that they were a couple years back, but they're going to put points up. I look at it as a little different. I completely agree with Coach Lupian in terms of last week. Maybe we're able to take an eye off San Francisco on Friday or Saturday and maybe start looking ahead to the Falcons. Unfortunately, when Drew Brees goes down, all that extra preparation kind of just, okay, hey, throw it out. Like everything changes now. There's a whole different game. I'm not going to get political or, relevant, but when you have presidents, when they pass over, it's considered transition of power. It's always considered the most dangerous or precarious time for national security. Just no doubt about it. Every time that's where it is. And this is super dramatic that I'm using this as an analogy, but I think this possibly could be that moment where, look, this is their transition of power, trying to figure out how Jameis and Taysom are going to coexist in the backfield. Who's going to get what, who isn't. I don't necessarily think Atlanta wins this game, but I think we have a situation where we have triple zeros and Lutz has his arms up in the air and it's a 41-38 game. Everyone talks about how valiant Raheem Morris's Falcons played and how once again Sean Payton schemed, I guess, his way out of something, or in this situation, he schemed a couple players in and something. And I kind of laugh too, but it's something we got to think about. This is going to be kind of the first time we see Jameis after LASIK. He had eye surgery. I know we laugh and we joke about it, 30 intercept, but that's something. I mean, it can't get worse, right? So who knows what that. I'm really excited to see how Sean Payton uses Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston. Put them in the backfield together. I mean, that seems a bit ridiculous. Maybe not this first week, but maybe a little bit later in the year. Try and find some ways to get a little creative. Because let's face it, neither of those guys together will equal Drew Brees. So I'll be a little back, or I guess, the only one that is on Atlanta +5, but we are all on the over there. I think plenty of points are going to be thrown around.
So finally in the division, we've got the Monday night game, which is the Los Angeles Rams at the Tampa Bay Bucks. The Bucks are currently favored at 3.5 with an over-under of 47.5.
Yeah, I looked at this number and I said, really? That's kind of low. I really do. I'm just going to put it out there right here. I like the Rams +3.5. I like the over 47.5. I think that's very low. Tom Brady did get things going back against Carolina, but I'm kind of like on a McVay thing going right now. I think he's found a little something going on with that team, and he's really dumbed things down for Jared Goff. But you know what? That defense has been flying around, and if that defense could put half the pressure the Saints defense did on Tom Brady, look for that ball to be sprayed around. And I'm going to go with the Rams 3.5. Just because they're traveling, there is going to be no weather issue. Let's not worry about the humidity because it's a Southern California team anyway. But I really have a feeling the Rams are going to stick it to Brady after they, let's just say, took a deep breath, felt like they recovered against Carolina last week, and probably undervalue this Rams defense.
Yeah, I look at the blueprint, how you beat Tom Brady. It's pressure.
Yeah.
Get in his face. And notably the inside, the interior line, breaking up that pocket, not letting him step up. Well, let me introduce you to my friend named Aaron Donald, who that's all he does at the highest level. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a defensive player, at least a defensive, especially an interior lineman, be that dominant to where he's been the best defensive player in the last 5 years, and it's not even close. He is a tone setter, and I love what you said about Sean McVay dumbing the system down for Jared Goff. I think he got away with some things a couple years back, the year they went to the Super Bowl, and it all caught up to him. when Belichick threw the same stuff right back into Jared Goff's face. And McVay thought, okay, hey, it was a hiccup. Then last year happened. They struggled. He's adjusted. There's another moment where I'll put my hands up and say, for the moment, I'm wrong. I was wrong. But McVay did seem like he wasn't going to be able to change. I mean, I watched that entire Super Bowl and it's just like, bro, I don't know what it is, but you have to do something else. I don't know what it is, but something has to change. And he seems to finally be changing it. And I think it's a reliance. The Rams for the last couple years, their talent they've been bringing in are the Ndamukong Suhs. They're the Jalen Ramseys. They're dealing with the Darrell Hendersons Jr., those guys who are just kind of grinding it out. And hey, if there's a hiccup in the season, they go with it. They don't take it to heart here and there. I like the Rams as well. Mainly, like I said, because of the way you beat Tom Brady, I think plays right into the Rams' hands. But I also do see some points being scored in this one. 47.5 points. That's really low. I mean, I know I talk about, well, this defense is good, but I mean, the Rams can put up 30 points and the Bucks can put up 30. We could see 65 easily without batting an eye. Right. So give me the over all day. I don't even know if I'll bet the actual spread. Maybe let the laying dogs lie depending on how Sunday goes. But I think this is a slam dunk at 47.5.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up a guy like Jalen Ramsey, because dude's been quiet all season long with his mouth, not necessarily his play.
Yeah.
And he's the kind of ball player. Welcome back to Florida, right? Yeah, he was in Jacksonville, but welcome back to Florida. I want to stick it to some Floridians right now, kind of thing. And the way he's been doing it, again, with his play, not at all with his mouth, where he's always been that talker, that kind of brash, no filter kind of mouth. He probably had this game circled for a while, and I could really see him making an impact. And regardless if it's on the interior with Donald, or bring in Ramsey as off that free safety and just seeing a couple blitzes coming from the secondary, he's gonna make an impact on that game. And yeah, I do agree with the over, because it's a low scoring total points, 47. My goodness, both teams have shown an ability to put up numbers. It's not going to be a 39-3 game.
Yeah.
Put it like that.
That's probably the only way we get an under is if it's a absolute blowout and someone does. I mean, I hate to say it, but I go back. I feel like 2 weeks ago when I was saying, hey, New Orleans, Tampa Bay, that's a definite over. Well, I didn't realize Tampa Bay is going to only put up 3. I think it's the only way this stays under.
Raider Jim, what about you?
When you step back and look at the overall for both teams, I think that's where you get this 47.5, because for the Rams season, the average score on their games is 24-16. Them on the over, so that's a total of 40. If you look at the Tampa Bay average score, it is 29-22, 51 total. You take those two numbers, you divide them in half, you're at a 45. Now, the other thing is the Rams defense, as we're all in agreement, they're just good. They don't let people score points. They're only giving up 16 points a game. And even if you're Tom Brady, that means you're going to have high percentage of offense to crack 20 points against these guys. So if they crack 28, that's going to be a real good game. It's can they, with the pressure that the Rams defense is going to put on them. So what was the over-under on this one?
47.5.
Over-under is 47.5. And then the line right now is Tampa Bay 4?
Minus 3.5.
Minus 3.5. Right.
I would look for the Rams to... I say the Rams are going to cover on this just by virtue of the offense, but I do think it's going to go under the 47.5. I think it's going to be lower scoring. And we both think the same thing. Well, you hear the Rams, you think, wow, they must be gangbusters. When it comes right down to it, they're not putting up that many points overall. I think they've had 218, 220 points, and Tampa Bay has scored a lot more points than the Rams. over the course of the season. But for this specific game, I think the Tampa Bay is going to have their work cut out for them. Definitely. So I'm going to go under 47.5, and I'm going to take the Rams to cover.
Nice.
Awesome.
Okay, moving on to the NFC East. Before we get to those picks, we're going to be talking about the team that beat Brandon Ferst's Eagles, which my friend says that game doesn't exist anymore.
24-hour rule.
We're going to talk about the Giants a little bit and what happened in their locker room. So they have fired offensive line coach Mark Colombo after a nasty verbal confrontation with their head coach, Joe Judge.
Is this not the most NFC East thing ever? We have, I mean, maybe now they're prohibited favorites in this division. They actually have a really, I mean, the Giants pretty much dominated that entire game. As I say that and try and keep, my lunch down, but it was a very, very strong performance from them. And yet this will still be, I mean, you know how a football locker room, a competitive locker room, there are emotions that fly. There are things that are said that after, the dust has settled, you look at another person, you shake his hand, say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. I was out of line, blah, blah, blah. Obviously this was on another level. We don't know the specifics, but I'll tell you this, if it's been leaked that it was a verbal confrontation, there were some F-bombs being dropped, and I would not be surprised if the maintenance man or wherever this happened was being called in to do some wall repairs. I'm not saying anyone was actually hit, but I'm sure someone punched a wall. It's just, normally, like you said, when you see, the offensive line coach and Joe Judge have mutually parted ways, that's like, okay, they probably got into it. But when they say, there's a verbal altercation, that's when there's more to this story. I would love to be the fly on the wall as long as it's not where the guy hit. But this is an NFC East story. It's just so terrible. Everything about this division is so terrible. But the Giants, that's not easy. Having to fill, kind of outside of it, we stop laughing about it. And it's hard to fill an offensive line coach. It's not exactly, offensive defensive coordinator, as sexy as that position would be. But if you're a lifetime offensive line coach, ask Tom Cable. Tom Cable will have 25 teams lined up for his services every single season because he is a great offensive line coach. So that's something they're going to have to deal with. So, once you kind of start laughing at the absolutely ridiculous nature of it, you wonder how much this affects just another bad team and another really bad division.
Well, I guess it's a good thing they're on a bye week.
That is true. And that could possibly be it as well. I mean, I don't think he thought of this or planned it like that, but that's actually a great point that this is the best time, I guess, if you're going to have this happen.
I mean, either way, this division is trash.
Yes, it is.
No offense to your Eagles, who are
Stop lying, Bryanna.
Okay, to be fair, they only have 3 wins. It's a trash division. I'm gonna say it.
Listen, you got the host job. Okay? Don't be shy about it.
Mm-hmm.
Be free. The hair's down, right? Just tell them.
Well, why do you think I started off with the team that beat his Eagles?
Exactly. It's the little passive aggressive stuff. That's even worse.
It is.
It's not the your team. It's the little things. Oh, by the way, let's start with the team that it's just, no, you could have just said the Giants were on a bye, but no, it's perfect. I love it.
And I mean, they have the same amount of wins, yet the Giants just have more losses because of that one tie.
Yes, that's going to be key. I'm telling you.
I have a feeling your Eagles are not going to be staying on top of that division much longer.
I don't think so.
I think the Giants may overtake Washington. Dallas just is trash. And I don't care if I say that to all you Cowboys fans. Your team is trash. I'm sorry. You lost your quarterback this year to injury. There's nothing more you can do. Just give up. So we're gonna start off with the Cincinnati Bengals at the Washington Redskins.
Yes.
So the Redskins are favored
Oh,
-1.5.
$2 in the jar. Football.
Yeah, there's not Redskins.
Football.
Oh, dang it.
Yeah. Nice.
I was fine last week. The Washington team.
There we go.
-1.5, and the over-under is 46.5. I didn't do it last week. Lapse in judgment.
Yeah, this is a game that you're probably the only way you're going to want to watch this game is if you are betting on it. I mean, if you are a Joe Burrow fan, that's also something to keep an eye on. But I made a bit of a passing quote last week that, what is going to happen? Alex Smith, the game manager, blah, blah, blah. He just goes out and casually drops 400 yards. Like it's no big deal. Has a great game. It's all in vain though. The football team. Oh. No, I didn't do it. The football team,
come on.
The red football team. That's what I meant to say, but they put themselves in a situation. I think it was either unnecessary roughing the passer or an unnecessary pass interference, like the last play of the game that put Matt Prater into position to, that was still a 55-yarder. So like I said, I believe it was at least a 15-yard penalty that put them in that position. These are the situations, unfortunately, that a young team find themselves in. Both really good coaches that I think are putting their teams in the right direction. Ron Rivera, I think we've talked about it on this podcast. We respect the hell out of that man. And Zach Taylor is a up and comer. I think he's taking, look, you can't go down to, your local soup kitchen and ask why you're not getting the filet. That's kind of where Zach Taylor is right now. He's taken what's put out in front of him. He's got a really good piece of meat with Joe Burrow, but not a whole lot of garnishes to go along with it. But he's getting there. This 1.5, more than likely, if you're going to bet this game, you probably just want to take the money line one way or another. Some weird 1-point game could get you one way or another. I'm going to go with Cincinnati. I just think not so much that they have more to play for, because that's not the case. It's crazy to see that the Redskins are right there.
Yeah.
Get it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Believe me,
until
they
get a mascot, it's going to keep happening.
Yeah. Oh man.
They need to get a mascot soon.
You're rolling too.
I was rolling on it. But anyways, that team in Washington, they're a situation there. While they're so close to, kind of being at the top of this little hill that is the NFC least, they will need to get by a really hungry team. I don't think Alex Smith has another game like he had last week, at least yardage wise. I'm going to take Cincinnati, 46.5. Look, Cincinnati puts up points. They don't stop a ton of people. Washington does the same. I'll take the over 46.5. Hope that these two teams stay out of each other's way. And this is another chapter in as the NFC East turns.
Well, before we continue, I think Alex Smith is just happy to get back on that field.
Amen.
I don't think he cares how well he does. He's just happy to play again. Because nobody thought he would get to this point.
And as a local boy, I'm so happy that he's back on the field.
Absolutely.
Going what he went through. I don't know if any of y'all saw his recovery story. It was just amazing. The infections, the skin grafts, the muscle grafts, the rehab. My goodness, to be back on the field is a victory in itself. Unfortunately, not this weekend. I have Cincinnati myself at a +1.5. But I do think, and I'm going to reiterate what our colleague, Mr. Ferst, used to say a lot about, was Chase Young and that defense. And I think Chase Young's that kind of game wrecker to slow a team's offense down, whether they scheme his way or not. It's just an adjustment to what your norm has been. But I do like Cincinnati to cover the 1.5 or to win the 1.5 +1.5. Yeah. But I'm looking more so as the under 46.5. That's just where I'm going with it. Raider Jim, it's on you, buddy.
Yeah, weather's no factor again. I'm always looking at the weather reports. It's just going to be 66 degrees or something like that around game time. Now, if Burrow does put up a lot of points, it appears it's that thing. It's that it's like a magic trick. It's an illusion. It appears they put up a lot of points. They're only averaging 22 points a game. Wow. When it comes right down to it. On the other side of that, they're giving up. Let's see, they're giving up about 27 points a game.
Yeah, close to 30. Yeah.
So yeah. So that being said, and Alex Smith, he's the veteran. He's the recovering veteran. He's that feel-good story. But there is more to it than the feel-good story. That kind of rallies around. That rallies the entire team. That makes the offensive line want to come out and play that much harder. The backs make sure that they don't have turnovers. It makes the defense want to get out there and make sure they keep Alex on the field and let him shine, let him recover. I think I'll take money line on this one, but I think it's going to be the Reds, the indigenous people.
You didn't finish it. You didn't finish it.
So the indigenous team from Washington is definitely going to cover this one. And but I'm going to go under on this one because neither team really puts up that many points.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, until they get a mascot, it's only going to get harder. Once they get a mascot, we'll all be fine.
I think it's the only one that didn't say it.
Yeah.
The word's right.
I didn't say it last week.
I kept it heavy since he talked.
Yeah.
There you go.
Except for
that was the reason.
And Alex.
That's a great strategy to run with.
There it is.
I mean, even after last week, I said the team multiple times. I never said the word. So I did well last week. It was just a lapse in judgment. Okay, going on to what I want to say the worst team in the league, but I don't know if I can, versus a team that I do not want to tie with the Chicago Bears. It's going to be the Dallas Cowboys at the Minnesota Vikings, and the Vikings are favored at -8. I have a feeling Minnesota's going to win, and I really don't want them to, but they're facing the Cowboys. I don't think I have a choice.
Yeah, it's ugly in Dallas. Just to actually show you how ugly, or not show you, but reiterate, there was a Cowboy 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, who got traded to the Lions, and he was just super excited. You know how bad it is for people to be excited to go play for Matt Patricia? I mean, that's how bad it is in Dallas. Yes.
It could be worse. It could be the Jets.
Folks. That was a 2-for-1. I hit Matt Patricia and the Cowboys all in one. That's what I did.
Could be worse. It could be the Jets.
That's true, but you know, the Cowboys situation is obviously dire. They're just trying to hold on. Honestly, for them, I would just, you know, kind of throw in the towel, try and get that top pick. Maybe not so much, you know, Trevor Lawrence or something, but try and get something at the top of that draft. But in this game, the Vikings have turned a corner. Dalvin Cook has turned into, I mean, he's just doing what Dalvin Cook has done. And on a more consistent basis, he's always kind of been a boom or bust kind of guy, the home run hitting running back, where he's either, going to run for 60 or lose 12. But that's a bit dramatic, but you understand what I'm saying. I like Minnesota to cover the 8. That's a heavy number for a Minnesota team that's under 500. But this is arguably one of the hottest teams in football. They like I said, turned somewhat of a corner. I like the under here. This is mainly, I'm still trying to figure out how Dallas scores, and Minnesota isn't a team that, you know, puts the, you know, over under, or at least the over fear in me for that offense. I like Minnesota to cover. I'd like it to come down closer to 7, obviously, but I think anything in single digits, you're pretty safe with Dallas and the under 47.5.
Okay, Raider Jim, we'll start with you.
Okay. Yeah, now I'm looking, and I just refreshed in case I had up an old screen. I do show Minnesota -7.
Oh, perfect.
And I like Minnesota -7. I have the over-under at 48.5. And, you know, in most instances, I would say, wow, it's the old days. It's the Cowboys and the Vikings. They always have great games. I don't think it's going to be a great game. It's going to just be a football game. And I don't think it's going to go over 48.5 because Dallas can't score. They just can't. I don't see it happening. They are not the, now this is not a great comparison, and no offense to our hostess, but the Bears couldn't score against the Vikings. The Cowboys really aren't going to score against the Vikings because.
Oh, I know. That's why I said hope.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
Right. So that being said, I have to go with the Vikings to cover the 7, and I have to go with the under 48.5 on this one.
You know, I have Minnesota -8. You're giving me -7. I like that number even better. I still think Minnesota is in that mode where they're looking to get over the top of the groove that they've been in, especially on the offensive end. Kirk Cousins is Kirk Cousins. And with me just saying that, he's going to want to put points on the board just because I said he's Kirk Cousins. Dalvin Cook's running the ball mighty fine. Legs are fresh. And I think the offense is going to continue to roll. Is that what they do nowadays, Bryanna? They just do that, or they do this, right?
Yeah.
And I like the over because I just think 48 is just too low. So yeah, Minnesota -7. I'm picking the over 48. Go with it.
It's something to look at. Minnesota is 1-3 at home.
Interesting.
You know, they're going against the hapless Cowboys.
But then again, the Cowboys are owned for it.
Yeah.
Anywhere that's not their stadium.
Right. I like you trying to bring the facts and the analytics to it and all, but I mean, look at who.
But Minnesota's going to win, and I just don't want them to. I got no choice.
Right.
As long as Green Bay doesn't beat the Bears, which I think
and the Vikings are riding a 3-game winning streak.
I know.
Exactly. That's why I'm doing this, Raider Jim.
Yep.
I'm doing this, Raider Jim. You know, and Zeke wants to trademark this and charge me for this right now. I don't got nothing for him to take. Minnesota's going to do this to him. You know, yeah.
They're going to eat the Cowboys for breakfast.
Lunch and dinner. Girl, come on now.
Okay. Going on to Brandon Ferst's team, who I'm going to say it again, lost to the Giants this last week. They're going to be traveling to Cleveland to face the Browns, and Browns are currently favored at -3.5.
Yeah. Look, I'm not the person to that person to he's gonna make us all feel better no matter what. I'm never that person. I go back to February 4th, 2018. Myself going into the fourth quarter of Super Bowl, 55, whatever it was, and just talking with the football gods and saying, you give me this Super Bowl, I don't care what happens. I don't care what you do to this team. I just want this Super Bowl. Well, the football gods are coming in and they are cashing in on that bet this year. The Eagles have been really, honestly, the worst I've seen them since Chip Kelly. And I mean that in terms of they're not a fun team to watch. They're really boring. Yeah, I love that he's putting his beautiful stamp on UCLA too, but
that's because you're a Trojan.
Chip Kelly is a terrible. The culture in that locker room was terrible. And that's where we are working towards now. And Jim Schwartz, how Jim Schwartz still has a job is beyond me. It's I find myself doing that Zach Galifianakis gif where he's trying to calculate everything like Rain Man. That's me trying to figure out how Jim Schwartz still has a job. He's been a mediocre defensive coordinator, even the year they won the Super Bowl, and he's still there. The Frank Reich really won the Super Bowl crowd is getting louder and louder. And as much as I soundproof my little, compound, I can still hear them talking. But at the end of the day, this past weekend, the biggest problem, it was not Carson Wentz. Now he's yet to throw over 60% since that Niners game. He's been under 60% in the last 5 weeks, which is really alarming because you kind of need him to be that kind of rhythm passer. And that's not been the case. We saw Miles Sanders come back. Alshon Jeffrey came back, which was an absolute miracle. Didn't really do anything, but still to see him on the field. But it was Jason Kelce not knowing how to snap the ball. And there were 5 or 6, 7 snaps where Carson Wentz is going down. Jalen Hurts as well. Miles Sanders luckily got a 6-yard gain on a broken play. But if Jason Kelce can't snap the ball, the Eagles are in a ton of trouble. And looking at it this week, the Browns, what they do well is rush the passer, and the Eagles do not protect the passer well. Myles Garrett is going to bring the pain this weekend. And the Eagles are going to have to be ready. You can make all the excuses you want about the injuries. The fact of the matter is they have to be better. They're also going to want to run the ball. I think for the Eagles, they need to force Baker Mayfield to beat them, period. If he throws for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, hats off, go for it. But you can't let Chubb and you can't let that running game and that powerful Brown running game get loose. If you do, it's going to get ugly. And that's kind of what I expect to see, honestly. I like 3.5 for Cleveland. I'll probably go up to even 5. And I like the under. Personally, I don't know how the Eagles score against a pass rush as good as the Browns. So I'll take the under. What about you, Raider Jim?
Raider Jim thinks that I also like the under. It boggles my mind when I just step back and look at the black and white of some things. And you look at the Philadelphia Eagles. They got 3 wins and 1 tie, and they're in first place. If they were in the NFC South, they'd be the 3rd place team. If they were in the West or the North, they'd be looking up at every other team. It just boggles the mind. So it's kind of like a business card. Just because somebody's business card says they're the president of the company doesn't mean that they are the best person in the company or the top dog or the top earner. That's just their title. So by title, they are a first place team in the NFC. That being said, and pardon me for being critical, I think when it comes right down to it, the other side of the ball, you've got the you got the Browns. And the Browns are one of those teams competing with the Raiders at 6-3. There's another team competing within their division on the AFC at 6-3, the Ravens. So Browns got a gift last week from the Patriots. They got to play. They're playing. Every game means something in that division. They are going to just leave it on the field week in and week out now for the last 7 weeks. So for Mayfield to come out, have a great game, as you alluded to, Brandon Ferst, the defense is going to come out and play a gangbuster game, because this is one of those, it's like the old cartoons where you see somebody with a steak knife and a fork doing this, sharpening up, because look at that juicy meal across the table. And so they're just going to just put the pressure on the Eagles this week. And I think easily the Browns cover, but I think it's going to go under because, as you've already said, Eagles just can't score. And Eagles don't travel well. Eagles have won once on the road, and Cleveland plays pretty good at home.
Coach Lupian?
With that said, I can't say it any better other than I did pick the over just based on the fact that I think that's a low score. Did we all see what Nick Chubb did at the end of the game last week? All he had to do was walk in the end zone, and they cover, and he walks out. But I don't think this is the case this game. I think him returning back last week is an indication of where they want to go moving forward, because you brought up the Ravens' loss, and they are going to look to get things rolling on an offensive side, finding rhythm. I do like Cleveland minus 3.5. I just think 46, even if the Eagles can't score, right, is just low in itself. I think there was I don't know what game it was earlier this season where I went the opposite direction with Cleveland, and they really shoved it down. And I think that's bothering me, haunting me right now. So I like the over, but I also like Cleveland.
Okay, so moving outside of everybody's respective divisions, we're going to go into the last 4 games. The first one being New England Patriots at the Houston Texans. And after what the Texans did last week, I need them to do better. Right now, the Patriots are favored at -2, and the over-under is 48. So let's start with Raider Jim.
Houston is the biggest disappointment of the year. One of the biggest disappointments of the year in my book. I really thought they were going to come out and be a lot more competitive. Never thought that I'd be looking going into this week that they would have 2 wins, 1 at home and 1 on the road. That is just ridiculous. And New England has a little bit of spark. They went out and did what they weren't supposed to do last week, and maybe that's all it's going to take for them to put together back-to-back good games. I think New England to cover the 2 is not by any means out of the realm of reality, and that's probably going to be the reality. 49, and I don't know, Houston doesn't, they play outside, inside?
It's inside. I think they might
play inside, so weather's not an issue. I would even go over 49 on this one. It's real simple one for me. I think Belichick's got his boys to he's making them believe that they still have a chance to make the playoffs. And if nothing else, we have to save face. So they're going to come out, they'll cover the 2, and it'll be over 49. And Houston, I don't know, they're back to the drawing board.
I just need Watson to do well. That's really all I need.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
It's a selfish thing. I get it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, maybe their eyes were opened. Everyone's the taste in their mouth that Monday night. Monday night where it was going into the 4th quarter, the Jets are up on the Patriots by 10 points. I mean, that is the bottom of the Patriot dynasty is right there. And I know they came back and won, but I think that's what we expected to see the rest of the year. But really what it was a team coming out, and they were they played themselves into that really crappy position. But you know what? When it was time to get the job done, they got the job done. And guess what? This isn't the BCS. We're not going to have a group of 5 or 6 people look at strength of schedule it's wins and losses. And believe me, as an Eagle fan, I understand the irony of that statement. But the fact of the matter is the Patriots way is still the Patriot way. Houston is, they have to be looking at themselves. In the last 6 months, they essentially chose their coach who should have been fired the last 2 or 3 years over their everything wide receiver. And that's one of like 3 others. There have been other players that have asked out and had to get out because they hated Bill O'Brien. And then 3 weeks into the season, you fire Bill O'Brien. And we're looking at DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, obviously we saw what happened last week with that amazing catch, but he is arguably the best wide receiver. He's definitely top 5, probably number 1. But I think Coach Lupian say I'm jumping the gun a bit, but he's up there. Yeah. But for Houston, this is the bottom of the barrel for them. They're in a absolute just bankruptcy mode. It's chapter 9, title 9, whatever it is. They are scrambling. People are, no, not title 9. I apologize.
I was going to say not title 9.
Yeah, chapter 9. Chapter 9 bankruptcy. They're running through the warehouse, stealing computers because you don't know where your next paycheck's coming from. That's where Houston is. And while New England from the outside might look like that, inside they're very calm and I think, under control. And they also understand that, look, we're not going to win this division. Buffalo's going to do it. But as long as Cam Newton can just play average, and I don't think that can happen, but if he can play average, this is a team that can at least make the playoffs. At least this week, I'll take the 2. This is mainly betting against Houston. I just think Houston is a dumpster fire that is going in straight onto a oil rig right now. And I like the over as well. I think we'll see some points because what Bryanna brought up, Deshaun Watson, you can't keep that. I mean, he's just surrounded by mediocrity, but he's still going to get 21 points or still going to, get his team to 21 at least. And the Patriot defense is not the, amazing defense it's been. And Cam Newton will get his one way or another. Give me the over, but I really like New England this week. But once again, I think it's just anti-Texan.
I like anti-Texan, and both you and Raider Jim convinced me because when I sent you my notes earlier, I actually had Houston +2, but I do have the over, so that's the consensus pick right there. Yeah, okay, give it to me. New England -2 over 48.
Perfect. We should be lawyers, me and Raider Jim, convincing everybody.
Makes me sad. Okay.
Eaters.
And my Bears are on a bye, so I've got the Texans defense too.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, wow. Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck, girl.
Well, to be fair, Cam Newton is not great,
No.
and their offense has been struggling. So,
He won't need to be great. He just needs to show up.
Yep.
well, but New England's offense has been struggling. So, moving on to the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers at Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oof. I go Steelers -10 over 47. Sorry, I'm just leaving it at that.
That's fine. I was gonna get to who is favorite anyway. Who's next?
I like Jacksonville. I think we've seen Jacksonville show up. It's not this team gonna, be gangbusters and shock the world, but they're gonna be close in just about every game. And I firmly believe that, it didn't happen last week, but the Steelers, no matter what, and no matter how good they are, how great it is, somehow, some way, they'll only win by a field goal when it's all said and done. It's just the way they play football. Give me Jacksonville +10. I like the over 47.5. Jacksonville can put up points, and so can Pittsburgh, obviously. Big Ben, he takes 2 or 3 more hits. I don't know if he's going to be able to lift his arm up. Honestly, I don't know how that guy's still going. Yeah, give me Jacksonville +10 and the over.
So you think Jacksonville is going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers off their pedestal?
No. They'll cover the 10 points.
Okay.
I do not expect Jacksonville to win the game, but I don't think Pittsburgh wins by 10 or more.
I do.
So do I.
Yeah.
Jim?
Yeah, this is one of those statistically interesting games because when it boils down to it, the Steelers score an average of 30 points a game and they give up an average of 19. And on the other side of that, the Jaguars only average 20 points a game and they average giving up 30. So, I mean, the numbers are just spot on this one. Right. It is amazing. That kind of stuff just fascinates me. It always has. So the Steelers, they're good. And you're right, Big Ben, he's a throwback. That, I always thought Favre was a throwback. This guy's a real throwback. I just figure one day that they're going to put a camera on the sidelines. He's going to have a cooler with a 12-pack and smoking a cigarette, between sets. And no big deal. Get out there. It's like Norm Van Brocklin, the old guy. I think it was Norm Van Brocklin. They said he used to show up to the games. He'd be in the huddle. You could still smell the alcohol from the night before. And then he wouldn't remember at halftime. Well, what did we do the first half? Who's winning? That type of a thing. And that's not a critique or a criticism to Van Brocklin by any means, because he got the job done. And I'm not indicating or implying that Roethlisberger does that kind of stuff. I'm saying he is truly the Steeler blue collar, get out there and get it done guy. So I think they will cover the 10. Might change my mind, go money line on that one, but Jaguars are just not good. They've got a 111 winning percentage right now. Yeah, they're just the guys you put out there on the field. Let's see what they can do this time.
So they're basically just the Jets at this point.
With a victory.
The Jets are the victory.
Exactly.
Okay.
But I think we are all on the over.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, moving on to the Cheeseheads at the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are favored -2.5. The over-under is 51.5. I don't want the Cheeseheads to win. They're leading the NFC North. I don't want them to win. And
I'm surprised by this line.
Yeah.
Myself, I know what we saw last Thursday, and with all due respect to Tennessee, that's not an earth-shattering win that just stops the presses and all of a sudden you're a 2.5 point favorite over Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I know once again, Green Bay is a chronic, they play down to their opponent. They always do. Always. And it is a situation where I think we'll see that, but this is very, very interesting to me. I don't quite sure. Let me pull up my notes as I get that. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so 2.5 for Indianapolis. I could see maybe once again if we have full stadium, you know, the crowd's there and maybe that way, but for me, Green Bay plus 2.5. I mean, if you can find yourself, you can get plus 150 on the money line. I would figure that as well. 51.5 is the over under. Oh, man, Indy's tough because they have such a good offensive line, but then they have such a good defense. So it's kind of like, well, which way is that going to go? Because I could go both ways because Phillip Rivers with plenty of time, as awkward as it looks, he gets it done and he'll put points up when he has time. And then the Colts defense as well can get the job done, but it is, of course, Aaron Rodgers. I'll take the over just because, you know, once again, when the chips are down on the table, Aaron Rodgers, what are you going to do? I'll take the over. But yeah, give me the Packers and the points. I was very, very surprised by that. What about you, Raider Jim?
There it is. There's the Indianapolis Colts, another one of those 6-3 teams that I was talking about earlier. That's another one of those AFC teams where they're all bottlenecked right